Welcome to the Carnivore Cast, the podcast focused on the carnivore diet and lifestyle, with practical advice from successful carnivores, citizen scientists, and top researchers. I'm your host, Scott Meslinski, and I'm here to speak with experts and experienced carnivores to get answers to your biggest and meatiest questions while helping you live your best life as a carnivore. Edmon Shahikian is a civil engineer, 22-year carnivore veteran, and moderator of the Zero Carb subreddit. His Reddit username is RonSwansoneer. Welcome to the show, Edmon. I'm super excited to have you on.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. And, I'm sure a ton of folks are wondering more about your story. So how about we just start there? What brought you to where you are today and carnivore diet?
Okay, so I guess my story starts pretty early on. My parents would say that I stopped eating fruits and vegetables as soon as I learned how to say no. So, growing up, it was pretty much starch and sugar for me. And that led to some obesity issues. And I started trying to, diet and lose weight, tried some different things, nutritionists and whatnot. And I think I was 12 years old when I read the Atkins diet book. So, once I started with the Atkins diet, it was very low carb because I wasn't having any fiber. And I had to cut out the starch and sugar.
Right. And from there, how did you progress to, zero carb? And who are some of your sort of biggest influences along the way? I know, the bear was one of the earliest sources of information, Owsley. Was there anything else that influenced you?
Yeah, sure. So, mostly through trial and error, I just noticed, trying to hit that 20 grams was, not really doing anything for me. And, I had already gone through all the myth about fiber, and I already realized it wasn't necessary, so I wasn't too worried about that. After, a couple of times going on and off the diet, I figured, might as well just go down to zero carbs, see if it works any better. I continue with that. I lost a lot of weight. Weight was up and down, but I lost about 100, 150 pounds at one point.
Wow.
So I think my highest weight was up to 420. And, so just, using ketogenic diet and, which was a carnivore diet for me at that point. To control weight, but it wasn't just the weight. It was a lot of other benefits I noticed, energy-wise and mental clarity and all that stuff. A few years into that, maybe 10 or so, 12 years ago, I read the Gary Taubes book, The Good Calories, Bad Calories. And that was a big influence. And then I came across the no carb forum online, where the bear Owsley Stanley was active, and I read his essay and some of his post history and conversations around that, and I found it really interesting. It really struck home with me because up to that point I was sort of in this mindset that I'm missing something from not eating vegetables and could be hurting myself, and I had this lingering anxiety about it. But after reading that, it kind of woke me up. It changed my perspective that evolutionarily it made more sense that we were probably focusing on meat when it was available, and we didn't use any plant foods unless we were in a situation of starvation or desperate need. So being in a modern society, having access to meat, it just made more sense to focus on that.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And what have been, you've been on this diet for a long time or off and on, 22 years. What are some of the biggest lessons you've learned or failures you've had during your journey that you could share with folks?
Biggest lessons I've learned was, thinking you could have like a bender or a cheat holiday and get away with it, but you do seem to become more sensitive to some of these plant foods. Like I would try to snack on some macadamia nuts, and any more than a handful will be like stomach issues and bloating and all that. So I stopped trying to do that. And a lot of people they come into this this mindset that it's going to automatically fix all your problems, and it's not that simple. There's other things that are involved with weight and health and different issues and disorders. You do need to control how much you eat, and stuff like that matters. Lately, I'm getting more into combined modalities, like adding fasting into my program to help me get down where my weight wants to be. Even like eating one meal a day, I'll pretty much stay the same weight.
Yeah. So you think, do you think a lot of people overeat on carnivore, and is that something you've seen on the forums and Zero Carb Reddit?
If it works for them, it's not overeating for them, but I see a lot of talk where people are kind of repeating this idea that the bear put out there, that you just eat whatever you want and your weight will normalize. And that's probably true for people who have never been like very overweight. You're just like a little overweight, you probably will normalize. But once you start getting into the upper 300s, 400s, then your body just multiplies so many fat cells that it changes how everything works hormonally, and it's like an uphill battle.
Yeah, I understand that. You might need to go to different lengths to lose weight when you're that insulin resistant and that many fat cells, as you say. You spend so much time talking to people, observing people on Zero Carb Reddit. What are the most common questions and common mistakes you see, or even rare mistakes, but ones that, you really would caution people against?
So common mistake I see is, people confusing the zero carb with 0 grams carbohydrates, and, not thinking they can have like plant oils and add stuff like that. And it could affect your metabolism. It could affect your gut. It could, it's better just to keep it within the plant kingdom. Some people might be even sensitive to small amounts of spices, even though typically we don't frown upon that too much. Other than that, a lot of like new beginners, they come in just from standard diet, not being familiar with ketogenic diets, not really realizing that this is going to be a ketogenic diet 9 times out of 10. So they're not ready for the keto flu, and they're wondering why they feel weird the first few days, tired or sluggish and whatnot. So we do a lot of help with those people. And and similar to that, there's a lot of people that when you make a drastic change in your diet, it takes some adjustment in your gut to sort of get used to that. So a lot of people aren't ready for that. But in most cases, it normalizes within 2-3 weeks.
Right. That makes sense. And how about, a lot of the advice common pieces of advice, such as you shouldn't be hungry, eat as much meat as you want, eat the meat you prefer. How do you feel about some of these statements, and maybe how have your views changed over time?
Well, yeah, I see some of this stuff. I don't think my own view changed over time, but I see it, and I see people kind of coming around to the way I see it, which is it's probably a good idea to keep this carnivore diet as a ketogenic diet. I just think it has so many benefits, in your biochemistry, metabolically.
Yeah. And how about sort of fat to protein ratios? Do you think those are relevant? Do you think people should concentrate on those?
Yeah, I mean, only so far as, to keep you in a ketogenic diet. But basically, if you are very active or young, then you could probably handle more protein. And if you're looking to lose weight, then you don't need to be adding so much fat. But if you want to maintain your weight, it's good to make up your calories with the fat, more so than the protein.
Yeah, that seems like sound advice. And how about, you've been on this diet for a while. I'm sure a lot of skeptics and naysayers would say, oh, you must have developed micronutrient deficiencies, even scurvy by now. What do you say to that? And have you supplemented at all, or do you think organ meats are important?
Yeah, so early on I supplemented. I pretty much stopped supplementing, maybe 9 or 10 years ago. Now, if anything, I'll take like animal-based supplements, like dehydrated organ meats or fish oil or something like that. No regular vitamins or supplements.
Got it.
My views on organ meats are changing. I experimented several years ago with like a very high organ meat diet, and which was minimally cooked or raw most of the time. And honestly, I felt my best when I was doing that, but I got lazy and didn't really keep it up. But a lot of the stuff I'm reading now, I'm starting to think it's important for a lot of people to really make sure they get some kind of organ meat like beef liver to balance things out.
Interesting. And you said you've experimented with a high organ meat diet. I'm really curious about that. What did that look like day to day?
So that was at a time when I was trying to do some rapid weight reduction. So I was doing a lot of fasting every week. And, I wanted to make sure I had a really high nutrient density when I was eating. So the organs came in handy for that. So it would pretty much look like I would just drink water from like Monday to Thursday-ish, Wednesday to Friday, something like that. And then for the weekend, I'd have like one meal a day of some kind of muscle meat and some liver, or I would like switch up the organ every week. So it would be like 1 week would be liver and spleen, and the next week would be like lung and pancreas, or I tried to mix it up, get a wide variety.
Got it. And what does sort of a daily or weekly diet look like for you now, Edmon?
Now, I'm still into the fasting. I've actually been experimenting with some dry fasting lately, which has been interesting. But yeah, so I'm kind of coming back to that high organ situation. I'll fast, a few days whenever it's convenient, whenever I'm not, eating socially. And when I do eat, I'll try to get in some bone broth and some liver, and I don't worry about it too much, but I do pay attention to it. And
Got
then,
it.
whenever I eat, it's just some type of steak or kind of meat.
And do you have Got it. And do you have an average amount of food you're eating per day in pounds, or just if you had to estimate sort of your daily consumption?
I don't really measure or track it, but like I said, I do eat a good amount. I've tried low calorie diets before, like it didn't work out. Like I would really notice my metabolism slowing when I do that. I start getting like cold at random times and just not feeling 100%. So even when I'm fasting, when I do eat, I do eat a lot. So it could look like 2, 3, 4 pounds of meat sometimes in a day.
Got it. Sounds like you kind of moderate it and follow your hunger as well, which I'm a big fan of. And one thing I know people will kill me if I don't ask about is, well, first of all, you mentioned you're up to 420 pounds. I imagine you had some other health issues. Can you talk kind of about just sort of a before and after in terms of your overall health profile, today or 10 years ago versus when you started and first discovered low carb diets?
Sure. Yeah. So, after I dropped weight from that 400 pounds range, I pretty much I yo-yoed a lot, but I always capped off that top 100 pounds. That was always sustained. Anything past that, I'd have to look into fasting, calorie restriction, as much as I could sustain that. But as far as issues that I tackle, the weight, my mood is definitely improved. Sleep is much better. I function on maybe 5-6 hours of sleep. And a lot of these are, just benefits of a ketogenic diet as opposed to a carnivore diet. But I guess I'm lucky that I probably never developed much, leaky gut or autoimmune issues since I started so early. But definitely more digestive comfort. Like I would never have bloating, never have any issues there since I started this. I'm prone to gout attacks. I've had some gout attacks when I was, cheating, maybe a carb binge or something like that. And it pretty much keeps that away when I'm behaving myself.
Right.
And just mental energy and energy in the gym, physically, and you just you just feel like you're more yourself. You're a more healthy person. I took care of sleep apnea. I used to have sleep apnea when I was really big.
That's great. That's remarkable progress, Edmon. And how about, are there other people in your life, close relatives, anyone else who practices a carnivore diet as well, or is it mostly just you and others have observed it over time?
I'm a special case in my crowd. There's no other carnivores around me.
Yeah.
I have a lot of diabetics in my family. I got one relative trying to do low carb, but they won't wrap their head around carnivore.
Okay. And that's great that you can be sort of a shining light and example for them, and that you're able to combat this sort of family history of obesity. And Edmon, do you mind if I ask how old you are? If you've been off and on for 22 years, you said you started quite young.
Yeah. So I'm 34 now.
Wow. Okay. That's amazing. I thought I was fortunate to discover this as like a 24-year-old, but you're miles ahead of me. And I guess given that you've been practicing this for so long, doing a comparison of your before blood work and after blood work wouldn't really be fair because your blood work probably looked great as a 12-year-old, no matter what you're eating. But I guess, have you had blood work more recently, and what does that look like?
Yeah, so my blood work, it's good. It's basically, you see the typical things with ketogenic diet that the sugar is stable, A1C is really low. I usually get about a 4.7, 4.8. But the LDL cholesterol is on the high side. The doctor likes to whine about that, so yeah, I don't know if I'll be going back to him too much. But, I already know, thanks to some research I read years ago and Dave Feldman's work to confirm a lot of that, it's not really a dangerous thing. It's more important to look at your triglycerides and HDL on them. But
right.
Even that, it's not that high. I usually stay around 200. I was up to 300 at one point when I lost a lot of weight in a short time. But that just came down over the next couple months. I've seen it as low as 175. And that's total cholesterol, not just LDL.
And how about, if you don't mind my asking, your triglycerides and HDL, how have those been?
Pretty good. HDL, it looks better when I've been exercising. If I haven't been exercising, it's in range, but it's on the low side. And triglycerides have always been great, very, very low, like 40 to 80 would be the range I've ever seen it.
Wow. That's great. And have there been any other sort of blood markers that have shown up with abnormalities or any? It sounds like your doctor is monitoring stuff, which is great. I guess if you have the right doctor. But is there anything else that they've noticed or talked to you about? Maybe your blood pressure or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, blood pressure's always been borderline high, and that comes from just being, very large. Just a mechanical thing. But it's never been like really alarming, or I've never taken medication for it or anything like that.
Okay, that's great. And you mentioned you exercise. What type of exercise do you do?
Right now, I keep it light. I just do some walking, weightlifting. I used to do CrossFit. I was into that for a while. I was doing the super slow training for a while. But yeah, just make sure I get some type of activity with my muscles. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I did super slow training once to twice a week for years. I'm a huge fan of Doug McGuff.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, Body by Science for folks who don't know. And how about electrolytes, Edmon? Have you experimented with those? Do you supplement with salt, potassium, magnesium at all? How have you thought about that?
Yeah, I don't think about it too much. I salt my food to taste. I won't really supplement electrolytes unless I'm doing some water fasting. And because I noticed with water fasting, you start to get that like orthostatic hypotension. So I'll add some sodium, potassium. I'm doing some of that, but otherwise I don't really think about it.
Right. And how about you talked about experiments, I imagine over decades that you probably tried it all. Can you talk about other food experiments or diet experiments you've tried and what you've experienced?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there hasn't been too much other experiments. This was the ketogenic diet was the first diet I found that worked and it made me feel better. So I kind of just adopted it from that point, and I've only been experimenting within that within that area.
Yeah, sorry, I meant more specifically, have you tried things like raw? Have you tried, higher egg content or more seafood, or just things within sort of a carnivore context? Where have you kind of pushed the edges, and what have you found?
Okay. I wouldn't really call them experiments, but I've just had, different trends and moods in what I'm eating. There was a time I was eating a lot of eggs, and it felt fine. It wasn't anything. Maybe it could cause some digestive upset from the egg whites, but I tolerate it pretty well. I don't really go looking for eggs now. I pretty much, red meat is what I'll look for. Everything else is I'll eat it if it's convenient. Fish, I never got too into fish. I like sashimi once in a while. I never really tried to have like a high fish diet or anything like that. The raw meat, I was doing that when I did the high organ experiment. That was pretty much like a raw and high organ experiment. And I enjoyed it. I like it. I'm trying to bring it back now, but it's tough because I'm pretty much eating only socially, so it's not really convenient. But when I prepare my own food, usually in that way, if anything, it's just slightly seared, like blue rare, not raw.
Right. And how about when you're eating? You mentioned eating socially. Can you talk about how you manage that with carnivorous diet? How do you eat out? Do you have any tips for folks eating out or eating with others while they're doing carnivore?
Yeah. So I found the best things are steakhouses obviously, but I like the Brazilian steakhouse because they can you don't have to get like plants on your plate or have to bother with sending back side orders and whatnot. They just come and bring the meat, and it's not cooked in vegetable oil or anything. They put salt and put it on the rotisserie, and so you're getting good clean meat over there. I like barbecue, and it's a lot of times you'll get like sugar and spices in the dry rub or in the sauces. So my favorite style of barbecue would be Texas barbecue. That's usually much less sweet, just salt and pepper seasoning. Yeah, it's just you try to be mindful, but when you're eating out, you're taking a risk. So
yeah, that's a great point. I love Texas style barbecue. I'm a huge fan, and have recently got a little bit more into the Brazilian steakhouse scene, and that's a treat as well. I think it works super well for carnivore. You definitely don't have to limit yourself in terms of quantity, which is nice. Anything else you've seen or advice you would give to people who are just starting a carnivore diet, or even a couple years in, because lots of folks don't have nearly the amount of great experience you have, Edmon, and I think folks would just really benefit from learning from your experiences.
Yeah, so basically the way I look at it is I try to look at it everything from evolutionary perspective first, and then sort of see where the science backs that up or question where it doesn't. And one thing that's helpful is to look at other carnivores and what they typically do, and maybe try to emulate that to some extent. So that's pretty much why I'm in support of the fasting idea and the organ idea, because it really fits in with the picture of evolution and other carnivores and what they do. Because if you look at a lion, they don't go looking for food every day. They'll have like a big hunt, and if they're successful, they'll have a big meal or two over the next day or two. Then they just rest. They don't don't really look for food for a couple of days. And they might not even find it for a week. So it's a natural thing that we're probably built to handle. And,
Yeah.
They also, they don't go for the muscle meat. They go for the fat and the organs. The scavengers will come in for the muscle meat.
Yeah.
And actually, as humans, we're probably a little better suited for the muscle meat. Not that we shouldn't have organs, but there's some evidence that our stomach pH is very, very low. It's like one of the lowest of all carnivores. It's about the same as like carrion birds that feed off of like decaying carcasses. So I think there's some hints there about evolution.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And one other question, Edmon, I wanted to ask you is, you've been doing this for a while. You've been in the community, sharing information with folks, helping folks, answering questions on Zero Carb Reddit. What do you think of sort of the recent popularism of a carnivore diet and things like Sean Baker and this just kind of blowing up and gaining momentum? And I'm sure you've seen a huge surge of users on Zero Carb subreddit. What do you think of all this? Are you just really happy about it? Are you worried about the way the message is being construed? How do you feel?
I'm pretty thrilled about it. Honestly, I wasn't expecting carnivore to take off until keto diet had been established for like a good 10 years, but it's looking more like now that keto is having a resurgence and becoming, starting to be accepted officially. It just made this like jump straight to carnivore for a lot of people, and a lot of people are looking at it seriously. A lot of doctors, a lot of influential people. Yeah, it was nice. I was at the Carnivore conference. I don't think I got to meet you there, but
Oh yeah, I wish I'd met you there. That was really fun.
Did you stay for the low carb Denver after that?
I did not. Did you?
Yeah, I did, and so it was really interesting to see a lot of the low carb people kind of dropping hints about carnivore and nods to it and mentioning it here and there. So I see it starting to expand its influence, and I think a lot of people are sort of coming around to the idea that the low carb diet is good because it's closer to the carnivore diet. And so all these people having success on low carb, it's kind of taking a half step, and most if not all cases would be more successful just going straight to carnivore.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been absolutely awesome, Edmon. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today. Folks are definitely going to be curious about your story. Where can they find out more about you? And do you have any social media or anything else you'd like to share?
Yeah, so I don't have a blog or anything. I do have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and I don't use any of them. So basically I'm only active on Reddit. So I'm user RonSwansoneer. Anybody wants to get in touch with me, it's probably the best way.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for taking the time, and look forward to chatting with you again soon, Edmon.
Okay, great. Thanks, Scott. Thanks for having me on. It's been nice talking with you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Carnivore Cast. If you enjoyed this episode, please review on iTunes. It really helps us out, and share it with a friend. What questions would you like answered, or who would you like to hear from in the carnivore research community? You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Carnivore Cast, or go to carnivorecast.com. You can also email me at info@carnivorecast.com. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep it carnivore.